What is up?
What is up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot Rico. It's Rico and Bot live on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel on a Friday night. And that, of course, I'm doing my own. I'm like doing my smoke break intro, Rico, and not my Rico and Bot intro. So how about that to kick the show off?
Listen,
We're good to we're lucky to have you in. We feel good to have you in. And this is a rivalry, by the way, right here, Rico, that we're currently sitting and watching right now. We got an American on the left side of your screen, a Canadian on the right side of your screen, and on Sunday at 8:15 a.m. Eastern, the United States and Canada are going to war out on the ice for the gold medal. Rico, how are you feeling about that, baby?
it's over for y'all. You know that.
Oh, is that right?
You know that. It's a wrap. Like we own y'all on the ice. It's just what we do, right? It goes back to the NHL. What was the halftime? What am I tongue twisted right now? Just a couple years ago, was it the 4 Cups?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And we owned y'all then, we'll own y'all again. That's just what it's gonna it's just what it is. You guys got the best of us with the women's team. Okay, it took overtime to do what you guys had to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And kudos to the women's team because that was a hard fought match, but it ain't happening. I don't give a rat's if Crosby's not playing. We're just the better squad. I mean, Finland, they
almost had you, boys. They almost had you.
They had us in the first half, but boy, oh boy, did we come back in the second. And we got business. I mean, you guys handled your business today. You guys dominated in good fashion. And I know you guys want this bad. The Americans want this bad. It's no different than when the Bills were facing the Patriots, right? In the years that the Patriots just dominate. But every time we played y'all, we played hard and we thought we were going to have this. And that's just the American team. The American team think they got some, but I don't think it's going to happen. Are you confident?
I mean, if they play like they did today, then you're gonna be unsettled on Sunday morning because they dominated Slovakia today. It was an absolute beatdown.
The Slovaks, they come on now. Let's keep it a buck here. You guys got a cakewalk in that one, and now you're gonna play a big boy. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I know all of Canada's gonna be like, we don't care any other event that's happening in this whole freaking Winter Olympics. This one matters, and we need to take the gold in this one.
How amazing is it, though, that it boiled down in both the men's and the women's to the States versus Canada? I mean, that's just wild. You go out there, right? Lists and lists of teams, and it winds up coming down to the brothers over here in North America. Pretty wild. I can't wait to see what goes down on Sunday. I've been enjoying that, by the way. It's been keeping me occupied.
It's going to be fun. I mean, I'm not much of a Winter Olympic fanatic, but when it comes to hockey and watching that and watching nations go up against nations, it's fun. And plus, we just own the ice. It's just what it is. So, but I will give the Americans credit. Y'all look good. Y'all look strong, and you guys are motivated. You just cannot let us get it again. And I mean, it's just fate is fate. If it happens, it was meant to be. It was meant to be. But I feel like we haven't spoken in forever, man. How you doing? How you feeling? Fatherhood is treating you good. The offseason is here, and it's a rough one. It's a rough one, but we got some things to talk about as we go. But before we get into it, I know last week we were talking about vehicles and what is Rico gonna get? Rico, get this car. I mean, the amount of messages that I got of vehicles that I should look into. Well, it's set and done. Research was I dove into the research, and we ended up with the Nissan Pathfinder.
Ooh,
the Nissan Pathfinder. So
now, I don't even think Nissan was brought up last week when we were discussing your options when shopping for a car. What happened? And obviously, it happened within a week here. It was quite quick. So what happened? How'd you end up going that route? That path, rather.
The dark horse came out of nowhere, and we weren't really mentioning the Pathfinder because I know about the CVT engine. The CVT engine has been an issue, and I wanted nothing to do with it until I heard they went for the 9-speed transmission. But the engine itself is amazing. So the 22 version was legitimate. It checked off every box that we needed. It got the 7-seat, it got the bucket seats, it got the leather, the interior plush seats were nice. The infotainment is updated, and you got the all-wheel drive, and fuel consumption is just as good as anything else. But space was what we needed, and the trunk space wasn't as bad as we thought. We could lift up the tail, We can lift up the cargo liner, the cargo space, and it gives us a little more room. And you got the 20-inch rims on that B. So we good, man. And I got the white that I wanted.
Oh,
so
there you go.
SUV. Oh, yeah. I got what I needed, and we're good. Close second was the Honda Pilot. Close second.
I like the Honda Pilot. But Caroline had a CRV when we were in college that I really liked. Honda makes a good car. I know a ton of people who have Hondas, but Nissan too. I mean, Nissan makes a good car. I'm looking at this right now. Roomy would be the word. I'm getting that vibe from looking at it.
You're looking at it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the middle row there. It looks like you got as much room as you could possibly want. It's almost as much room as the front.
We're chilling right now, and we got the platinum version. So the best thing to do is get a pre-owned vehicle, but get the top end, and that's exactly what I don't do brand new. Brand new, like I sold cars for so long, you just don't do brand new because there's the depreciation. And then here I got my guy over here that just bought a brand new vehicle, so he's like depreciation.
No buying on this side. No buying. I'm a leasing guy. I'm a leasing guy.
That's right.
Because I don't like to get married into a vehicle. I just don't. And I don't drive enough to justify buying. Nice. And we own another vehicle. We have two vehicles, so we own one. I lease mine. And I do like the ability to get something different every 3 years. I actually like that option. I know people swear against leasing. I get it. It's worked out for me. I've enjoyed it during however long I've been doing it. I've been doing it ever since probably college. And it hasn't steered me wrong. I like it, and it fits within what I do. I don't need something that I'm going to be putting 100,000 miles on because it's just not quite what my current situation entails. So
I get it.
I don't mind it, but I'm glad you found something that you like. Now, when it came down to this situation, we're looking at a pie chart here.
Yeah.
How much of the decision was Jenna's? How much of the decision was yours? Or was this a mutual, I'm liking this, we're going with it?
Listen, Jenna's the one who brought it up. She was the one who was like, listen, what about this one? And I was like, the Nissan Pathfinder? I was like, no, I'm not looking at the CVT. But I was like, let me look into it. And the more I looked into it, I was like, wait a minute. And then I started comparing apples to apples. I was like, wait a minute, this is just as good as the Honda Pilot, just as good as all these other big makes. I'm like, why did I not consider it? And then what put me over the top was the transmission. And then we took it for a test drive. Game over. Telluride was in there too for a minute. And then I was like, that space in the back, I'm not feeling it. And too much tech for me. Too much tech is not good because of warranty. But let me tell you a quick story before we get into football talk. It was over for you guys, kilometers. It was over. I got it just over 100,000 kilometers. So because I know this is going to last me long and I'm going to keep it for a while, nothing to me. It's still good stuff. Trying to buy warranty, this lady tried to sell me $6,000 warranty that would cover 3 years, 60,000 kilometers. I don't know what it is for you guys, but 60,000
kilometers. So I just looked it up. 100,000 kilometers is roughly 62,000 miles. So there's some miles on that thing, though.
Yeah. So, but 100,000 kilometers is nothing to us over here. We can roll our suckers up until like 300,000 kilometers. And by 200, 250, I'm out. I'm going for another one at this point. So, as this girl tried to sell me a warranty for $6,000 covering only 3 years, $60K, $6,000. I was like, dude, the math ain't mathing. So then did my research, found warranty that covers me for 5 years, up to 200,000 kilometers, and half the price. I'm trying to tell the lady, you overcharging me. You're gonna have to bring that sucker down. She's like, nah, man, I'm only making $500 profit, bro. I'm out. I was like, you know what? Keep your warranty. I'm moving on. Listen, this game is a dirty game. If you don't know what you're doing, you can be had real quick. But anyway, long story short, Nissan Pathfinder. We pick up our baby tomorrow and we rolling. And then we say goodbye to the Dodge Caravan. We out.
Is it going to be sad, by the way? When we had to say goodbye to our van, my dad had a Chrysler minivan, or no, it was a Kia minivan for a while. And it was sad to say goodbye because of how much we did in that van. Like how many memories we made in that van. We had it. It was actually my grandfather's. My dad took it over when he passed. And between the two, it was in the family for like, oh my God, at least 15 plus years. And the amount of stuff that we did in that car was insane. It was like a sad day when he had to get rid of it. And he drove it down to like basically like you couldn't have got another day out of that thing. You know what I mean?
I'll give you this. It is. I told my daughter yesterday, hey guys, this is the last in the Dodge Caravan. Listen, this is. She's like, what? Are you serious? And they started to feel a little something. I was like, yeah. I brought you guys up in this car, man. This thing is 12 years old, man. We did what we needed to do. We said when we bought it, we're driving this thing as long as we can. And we could have put a few thousand more on this thing, but we're like, you know, it's time. So here we are, man. New car and new me. Who knows? Who knows if I'm going to start acting brand new? But
they love those warranties, though. By the way, don't they love those warranties over at the dealership? That's like their PB and J, man. That's their bread and butter.
And the crazy thing is, don't play with me. Like, I'm a negotiator. That's what I do. She goes, yeah, it's $6,700, but you know what? I'm going to take $1,000 off. I didn't even mention anything. I'm like, so you already knocking off 1,000? I was like, oh, this is.
And she was trying to get that 1,000 back on the back end, right? Yeah.
It'd be $2,500 on the back end. She doesn't.
You don't want to buy the warranty? I already did you a favor. I cut 1,000 off. What do you? Why don't you just get the warranty?
Let me just get my rust proofing and call it a day. And listen, Walter, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you showing some love, man. Say, you know what? Congratulations, appreciate it. But does it get separation though? That we're gonna find out when we get on the highway and let it rip. 89 horsepower. I think that's good enough for us. But here we are with a new vehicle to the family. But you know what else is new? We might see some new faces on the Bills' offensive line.
Good for you.
You know what? You had a good one last week. I had to forgive myself.
I've been thinking about that one from last week. I've been thinking about that one, by the way, all week long. That's what I've been like, that was a good one.
You killed that one. I was like, oh, that was impressive. But yeah, we might have some new faces. Listen, Rico's getting a new car added to the family, and it's going to take some getting used to, but I know it's going to perform the way it needs to perform. The real question now becomes, Josh has been used to the Dodge Caravan, a.k.a. the good, reliable, dependable O-line that has been protecting him for the betterment of the last 2-3 years. Now, Josh Allen could be without Connor McGovern and Mr. Edwards, David Edwards. But you've seen it. You've seen the list. You saw the list of players, which I'm going to pull up in just a moment. The list of players that we or the Buffalo Bills could be without if the Bills don't decide to bring players back to the squad. Your thoughts on the players that are not returning thus far with the Bills not picking up their contracts and their void years exercise. Your thoughts? I'm going to pull that list up. I'm going to start with player number one on the list. The hottest, I guess, would say our center, Connor McGovern, potentially not returning to the Bills.
Well, my first thought in terms of the line came today when Alec Anderson signs a 1-year, $3 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. So an additional year that he tacks on. And my first thought was David Edwards, because you see the situation going on with the offensive line, Connor McGovern and David Edwards in particular, the two main topics of conversation. Because when you're talking about the Buffalo Bills, one of the mainstays of recent here has been that offensive line. I mean, for as much as we complain about the wide receiver position, which is justified, and as much as we complain about the defense at times, which is justified, it's very forgotten, I think, at times, what this offensive line has been for the Buffalo Bills. Now, you can look at what they did for Josh Allen in his MVP year, next to no sacks, next to no turnovers. Then the following year, James Cook wins the rushing title. Yes, you link that to the offensive line, and it comes up in conversation. But I do think when we're talking about the success that the Bills have had post Stephon Diggs, where they really haven't had that bona fide stud to throw the ball to, running the ball has really become their MO. I mean, they have become a run forward team, one of the most run heavy teams in the NFL, if not the most run heavy. You do not do that without an offensive line that is capable of allowing you to do that. And the Bills have had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And the way that they've been able to sustain that success is because they've had the same guys out on the field, Rico. That's going to change. No matter what, at the bare minimum, there is going to be at least one change, I would imagine. And I think it's going to be either McGovern or David Edwards. I don't think we see both. The reason why I thought of David Edwards today with that Alec Anderson signing is you have to imagine that if David Edwards is the one to go and not McGovern, Alec Anderson is the succession plan at guard. So you see that contract move today. I think when you are of the mindset that David Edwards is coming up on a contract and he's not going to be cheap, I looked at the estimated salary range for David Edwards. We're talking like 16 plus million here. Right. You just got Alec Anderson for essentially a bag of chips when it comes to this market on the offensive line. Is that the move? Now, you've already seen this be put in ink, right? Alec Anderson getting that additional year there. the question then with McGovern is, well, how do the Bills feel about Van Pran Granger? That is the question. You know that they feel good about Alec Anderson because he did play a pretty significant amount this year. And then you don't know much about Van Pran Granger, right? That's the thing. So David Edwards is potentially on the block. You then have experience with Alec Anderson, now a contract. Does this lead you to believe that David Edwards is the guy to move? The way I see it, I love both guys, and I would love to keep the continuity on this offensive line. With the cap situation and with the Bills' need to make a big move this year, I don't see how they keep both. In my estimation, Rico, it's Connor McGovern that stays. And I thought this before seeing Alec Anderson ink that deal. I think it even more today after seeing him get that contract from Bean. How are you feeling about it, though?
You know what? I'm at peace if the Bills decide to move on from both Connor McGovern and David Edwards. David Edwards is according to Spot Track, is slated to potentially earn $20 million a year.
Crazy.
I'm out on that. I mean, he's a solid player. He's been a very good contributor for the Bills O-line, but please, I can't justify playing $20 million to one player that is interior, where we have a guy like Alec Anderson that has had 20 starts, 20 starts at guard in his career with the Bills, and 12 starts at guard with the Bills. Dude, I'm okay with it. And the times that he has been in the game, he has not been a liability. And he's only young. He's only been in the game a couple years. With the tutelage of Aaron Kromer, him and Cedric Van Pran Granger, you've learned something along the way. There's no way you've been sitting here marinating on this bench and all of a sudden you're going to be a liability because we've let go of McGovern and Mr. Edwards. So I say this: Edwards, see you later. It's been great. Time for Alec Anderson to get his licks and get his feet wet. But the guy that I'm most excited about to see what he brings to the table, speaking of Connor McGovern, because I don't think we'll bring him back, although it sounds great. I'm going with Granger. When we brought Granger in, when we drafted him, he has only played center, and he played for a big-time program at Georgia. And let me slap on a couple things for you guys to know about Mr. Granger over here. So, started every game for 3 seasons straight. 44 consecutive starts at center for Georgia. That tells me they trust him there. He's a bona fide center. He knows where he's supposed to be. And we don't have this whole you move to guard and you move to center. Put him where he's supposed to be because that's what he does best. And when you play at Georgia, you're playing top competition. Let's keep it going. He anchored that line to 2 CFP national championships in 21-22. He was the SEC Jacobs Blocking Trophy winner, first team All SEC in 2023, and second team in All 2022. This dude is ready. And now you've had him. It's not like you put him onto the field right off the rip. He had time to sit in Kromer's system, and he had time to sit behind the likes of McGovern and seeing what is needed to be done. Bro, we can allow McGovern to go do his thing, and Granger steps right in. Now, if you really don't feel that Granger is the guy and he's not ready, then you will see Connor McGovern return. But you would have thought they would have made him return by not allowing that void year to hit. So clearly something's up. Now, here's what I want to touch on. And this is where I want your thoughts, right? So Connor McGovern, we'll call it $5 million. All right. So you got $5 million that's going to count against the dead cap. And then if you bring him back, you got to start all over with a new contract. So you got $4 million already that was already associated to his contract. And now you got to give him an extra contract on top of it. That's a lot of money. So he's garnered to get 16 mil. So 16 mil plus that 4, that's $20 million right there. And you want to play Edwards $20 million, $40 million tied in to your center and your guard?
No, you can't do it. They're not going to do it.
You can't. So this is why you got to let the young guys step in and show what they've learned. You got to see it. And now you got a whole offseason. You're going into year 3, both of them. This is where we got to, you know what I mean? We got means to solidify elsewhere on this team. I know the O-line is super important, but you got your bookend right tackle, you got your bookend left tackle, and you have a right guard that has been in the game long enough that he understands what is needed of him. And now you got two guys that have developed for 2 years now. It's time. And Josh Allen is a franchise player. He'll make it work with everybody. So let's roll. Give me Cedric. Give me Alec Anderson. Go in the draft and get yourself a guard, or maybe maybe Wyatt Teller. Maybe they love Wyatt Teller and they say, Wyatt Teller, come on back to Buffalo. But if you're not going to pay David Edwards, why would you pay a right guard Wyatt Teller? It just doesn't make any sense. So I like the new faces. So new faces in Buffalo, that O-line will not look the same, but I don't think you're going to lose that much either. Are you in on having those two new players at guard, or you feel, nah, I don't care what you say, Rico. I still got to bring McGovern back. I need something there.
Well, if it'll be very telling on how they feel about Van Pran Granger, right? Because if they do end up extending a bag out to McGovern, then I think that kind of tells you where they're at with that. This is the perfect opportunity.
Before, though, before he hit that void year,
you would think,
yeah,
right? You would think, but then again, I'm watching today where you extend. And granted, Alec Anderson, once again, you got him for next to nothing. That doesn't mean David Edwards is out of the question, but this is what makes me wonder whether or not both could be out of the question. Kind of like I think you're maybe alluding to a little bit. This is where you start really freeing up money for the future. But are you putting at risk a unit that has been maybe the best unit on this team for some time now? You're already talking about having to tackle the wide receiver position, areas of the defense. Now are you opening up a whole new realm that needs to be addressed in order to get this team to where they currently are with what they've had? This is what's awfully interesting about this situation. I do think that they'll end up keeping one of these guys.
Okay.
But it does make you wonder, like, if they do keep McGovern, then what is the plan with Van Pran Granger? Because clearly he's not going to be getting in at center anytime soon if they extend McGovern, right? If you give him a 3-year deal, then when is Van Pran Granger getting on the field, right? With Alec Anderson, with David Edwards, like we saw him and Alec Anderson in each and every game just about this year, right? So you can still swing both ways there. I wonder what Josh Allen feels about this, because you lose Mitch Morse and then you go to McGovern and it's been a solid succession, right? Are you willing to move off of a solid center that's been really a cornerstone of this offensive line? Or are you willing to go with the younger guy in Van Pran Granger and kind of put Josh Allen in that situation? I wonder how he feels about it. But then again, when I went back to the Mitch Morse situation, I was like, man, how are they going to overcome the veteran presence that Josh Allen's been taking snaps from his whole career? And they did that just fine. So I do wonder, once again, if this was a different year where, say that they still had Diggs on the team and there was no need for a splash. Because let's talk about this for a second. Okay. The Bills need to make a splash for 2 reasons. One, because they have to, just because the roster commands it.
Okay.
But 2, Brandon Beane has to. And I think he knows this. He has to do this from an optics standpoint. I'm not saying he's going to go out and make some ridiculous, nonsensical move just to make himself look good or try to make himself look good. But the human element of this, to me, is interesting. With as rough of a year as Brandon Beane just had last year, to then be promoted and then be put in charge of the new wave or the new chapter of Buffalo, he keeps alluding to this idea that there's going to be, one of those wild headline type moves that are going to pop up on your phone that's going to have you and me rush into our computers to go live with everyone who's watching right now.
Yeah.
So I think in another year, in a different world where they didn't have to do that, you would see McGovern and David Edwards signed here. I think the reason why you end up either keeping only one or potentially moving off of both is to make way for this major move that I have convinced myself is inevitable. I don't know what it is. And frankly, I don't even know what position it is. It could be D-line for all I know. God knows we know Brandon Beane loves taking stabs at the defensive line. Wide receiver will be addressed. But I'm talking about that major move where you're looking at your phone and you're scrolling and then it pops up and you're like, wait a minute. I just feel like that is inevitable. So it wouldn't shock me here, Rico, if both McGovern and David Edwards were moved off from, because as you alluded to, if you wanted to keep them both, you're looking at nearly $40 million. That's not happening. And then if you want to keep one, are you willing to go that $16 to $20 million route in the situation that you're currently in? So you'd be awfully reliant on Cedric Van Pran Granger, who's in a whole new spot, right? or not a new position, but this is the starting role, brand new.
Yep.
And then Alec Anderson assuming the full-time starting role. Is that too much of a roll of the dice to try to address other areas? That would be my big question.
It's always a roll of a dice, though, because I mean, like you said, you alluded to that perfectly, right? We went from, oh man, like Mitch Morse, man, that's a veteran guy, that's a leader in the locker room, man. We're gonna go to McGovern, I guess, and then McGovern ended up being fantastic. So, the one thing that I stand on, what I like, is not only Aaron Cromer was such a big piece on this team. You had 2 years to learn under that coach. Then you bring in the respected Pat Meyer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you got 2 respected coaches that Meyer has worked with Brady in the past. So to me, shit or get off the pot, right? You drafted this guy. You got him. This is the name of the game. You got to move on for certain players. The money sometimes is not right. But the one thing that stands out to me is with the durability that we've had at sometimes at O-line, we've had some stability. You gain that stability. You get younger. You get younger with Van Pran-Granger. You get younger with Alec Anderson. So that's what you need, number one. But according to PFF, dude, he played 1,400 snaps collegiately. And dude only was credited for allowing 1 sack. Bro, you gotta put that brother in. Now, do I understand that it was college? Yes, but you weren't playing at Appalachian State. You're playing at Georgia, baby. So like that means something. And not only that, against top tier opponents, this guy yielded only 13 QB pressures off of 485 pass pro situations. Bro, get that brother in.
Now, I mean, I think where you're at right now and what you're getting at is, and I think I was just going to say, like, this is the ultimate takeaway. He's either ready to go right now or he's not. And you will 100% know that one way or the other based on what they do with McGovern. And as much as I think they'd love to keep McGovern, this is what you draft a guy like Van Pran-Granger for, to not have to pay $16-20 million for a center when you have a guy that has the track record that you just listed off. We'll know instantly. And I don't think it's a knock on him that he hasn't gotten in. It's McGovern's been great. Like, this offensive line in general has just been great. But when you have maybe not as good, but good enough, like, this is where you get into the weeds here, where, yeah, McGovern X amount better, but when you factor in the amount of money, does that eradicate the difference in play between the two? Plus, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Like, you got to know what you got in the guy. You got to know what you got in the guy, and this is the opportunity to do it. I just think that I actually, the more we're talking about this right now, I guess I'm sitting here of the mindset that, man, I know there's one thing on this Bills team that I can trust, and it's the offensive line. It does make me uneasy talking about shuffling the deck to this degree. Losing one piece is more than the Bills have had to deal with in multiple years here. Losing potentially 2, that would be something. And now, obviously, if you were to go this route, the rumor of Deion Dawkins being on the block will immediately be eliminated. I think that should be eliminated right now as is. I don't see that happening.
Absolutely.
But, you're talking about this, and it's like, you liked Alec Anderson enough to give him another deal, and you drafted Van Pran-Granger, and you want to know what you have there. Could Bean say, we got other areas of need, and we think we might not have the best offensive line in the league, but it'll be good enough, and we will then overcome what maybe we lose there with the additions we make, whether it be wide receiver or whatever.
The one thing that does make me kind of like, we should be good enough. I really don't want them going into that mentality of we should be good enough, because we thought that we should be good enough at that receiver position. And we thought Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and Josh Palmer coming in, we should be good enough. And we clearly weren't. So I'm hoping that they're not going into it with we should be good enough, and more like we know we're good enough. Because let's keep it real. If they really wanted to know what Cedric Van Pran-Granger is all about, there's a reason that they did not extend and say, you know what, no, we're not going to let that void year hit. We want to bring you back. But they exercised that. They said, no, we're going to let you, give you the respect to go and get your, and that's what they love to do, right? We're gonna respect this player to go and see what he can get out there. All right, well, now it's time to find out what we got in that. Now, the one thing that I will say, it's not all flowers, right? Because there was an opportunity when Connor McGovern could not play one game, and he got banged up for a series or two or whatnot, or was it a game? I can't recall. and Alec Anderson ended up going and playing center and not Cedric Van Granger. So that was concerning to me. I was like, hold on. If you're gonna put somebody in, you put in Granger in and not Alec Anderson. So that was puzzling to me. So that's why I'm optimistic that this might be the route, or maybe they don't believe what they have in Granger and they may still bring back Connor McGovern. But to allow him to go and hit the market, it's a big risk. And I think that's a risk that they were willing to take, knowing that maybe Granger is going to be the guy. But I do remember that into last year where it was Alec Anderson at center and not McGovern. I was like, ooh, interesting. So keep that in mind as well. So O-line will be a different, the face is going to be a different look. It's going to be uplifted, or it's going to be saggy and no good. So we're about to find out exactly what takes place with that O-line. So
I'll say this though: if a sacrifice has to be made to where there's not this massive, like, I don't want to be sitting here in late October saying, yeah, Josh has maybe has 1,000-yard receiver this year, but they can't run the ball like they did last year. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to be sitting here with this massive trade-off. I'm fine. You have to have a little give and take. I get that. Maybe James Cook isn't the rushing title winner again. Fine. Right. Sure. But I don't want to be sitting here saying, yeah, well, it looks like the pass game has a couple more tools to it, but now I'm watching this offense and, man, what felt like a guaranteed 150 yards rushing per game is now hovering around 100 or so.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is I would be, if they wound up, I don't think nobody should be upset if they wound up allocating assets, Rico, to keep both these guys. Because I know it doesn't seem sexy and it immediately feels like it's eating into the idea of getting this big name guy this offseason.
Yep.
But you have to understand as well that they've been able to overcome like what they once were, this air raid type offense where it felt like they were bombing it down the field more often than not. They've won just as much through the running game, and what that's become has been one of the more imposing units in the NFL. I don't want to sacrifice that. So if they do end up maybe having to go this route and paying both guys, I'm fine with it. It's just, I find this situation to be awfully interesting because of the Van Granger situation, because you do want to know what you have there, but do you want to risk it? And obviously, I think right now they have to have an idea of whether or not they're going to, like you said, are we good? Not we might, we'll be all right. Are we good? That's the question. And then if you extend McGovern, then do you try to see what you can get for Van Granger? Because I just don't know what the at that point, I don't really know what the game plan is there. Because when is he going to get out of the
field? You
still
have him at depth at this point. But I mean, who knows, man? I mean, this is we have a new O-line coach, so he might see it completely different. He might see, hey, I see great things in this, or listen, I got a vision for this, and I think that we could do something here. It's all going to play out, but this was interesting to see them not pick up and allow them to go and test free agency, because that's essentially what they've done. So McGovern obviously was one of the names on the board. I'm going to move on to the next name for me, and I want you guys to if you want you to give me my thoughts, give me your thoughts. Matt Milano. We already knew this was coming, and we anticipated it. We never knew. You just don't know with Matt Milano if he's going to be healthy, he's not going to be healthy. Will he play? And he actually did pretty well this year in staying healthy. And some might say we like the Matt Milano, Shaq Thompson collab, that double, that duo. Now he's set for free agency. Do you even consider bringing him back, especially with now a new regime, right? Brady's now your head coach. You got a new defensive coordinator. Now we're going 3-4 defense. Your thoughts on Milano? Do you just don't even broach that subject, let that brother walk, and we just got to get younger, get better, get healthier? Or is there room for him on this roster?
This feels like a Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White type situation where, man, you love what you had with the guy, and you really are going to be bummed to watch him go. But it just feels like it might be time. And they already had him, he was already willing to take a massive pay cut last year. Maybe they can find a way to do something similar again. But I just, with the injury history and what I find to be obviously a need at adding to linebacker here, like they're going to have to go out and I'm imagining whether it be in the draft or whatnot. That seems to be an area of addressment. I just don't know how much more you're going to get from Milano at this point. And I think we've seen the best of him. He still has those flashes in the pan. And as you said, like he did have at times this year really solid moments. But when you're looking at having to come up on a new deal here, I feel like it's all going to come down to what he's going to want to do. Knowing Bean, the willingness to sign guys for cheap that have been with this organization and have been great with this organization for a while, we know that is what he's best at, honestly. This is why I go back to McGovern there and Edwards. The one thing you can't knock Bean for is how damn good he is at getting guys for less than their market value. I mean, he's really good at that. If there's one thing that I think Bean could be at the top of the list of GMs in the NFL at, it is doing that. It would have to be that type of situation, Rico. But I personally feel like it's probably going to be time here with Matt Milano. I could, the void year hitting the other day. I think it's $26 million in dead cap money now going into this upcoming season.
Yep.
I feel like you might want. The thing is, though, with that amount of dead cap, I feel like you want something for that. So I do feel like there could be an incentive to keep him. And I don't think that they want to get rid of him necessarily, but they didn't want to get rid of Jordan Poyer. They didn't want to get rid of Tre'Davious White, but it came to a point where you had to. And I wonder if that's where they're at right now with Matt Milano.
See, I was watching people talk about this Matt Milano situation, and I'm not a cap guy. I'm not a numbers guy. But I mean, you got to learn from those that do speak about it. And his dead cap is $11.7 million. So you're paying that regardless. You push that money down the can, you got to pay that brother regardless. So whether he goes to another squad, you're on the hook for that. So let's just say they decide to bring him back. He's not coming back for peanuts. He's going to want to try to get a sizable deal from the Bills. I haven't looked at what his market value is. I don't know. Let me see if I can try to find it. But let's just say he says, hey, I'm going to come back. I'll take $8 million. $8 million over the next couple years. I don't know, 3. Who knows, right? Let's just say it's a $24 million deal. Okay. Plus another 11 mil. So like the first year, 2026, you got 11 mil owed to him, plus another 8 mil. Bro, I can't. $19 million to have him on the ride. If the math is math, then that's what it's gonna be if you factor in that dead cap. So for me, hey, it's been real. It's been great. Would I like to see him back? It'd be cool, but that's more for my in my feelings reasoning. Nothing more than that. So yeah, $18 million, bro. I just can't justify bringing this brother back for $18 million for the 2026 season. Sorry, can't do it. I can't justify that. So we gotta get younger, get fresher, get ready to go with a guy that is going to be durable. And the one thing that you cannot get out of Milano is, will he be durable for you? And you're always gonna be like, I don't know. And that's the thing you cannot take a chance on. You can't take a chance on I don't know. So at the end of the day, bro, you gotta start fresh. He's got to go 11 mil. You made your money. We pushed that money down the can. Now you can make your make your career elsewhere or finish off your career elsewhere. So that's the way I look at it. Milano, you're feeling that he's got to go. So I'm with you. I think we're both on the same page. Can't justify bringing that back at that type of money unless he takes like a $4 million deal. Highly doubtful, because I think he's earned a little bit more than that, and I think he's known around the league. I just can't see him taking such a deal, so I can't see him coming back to the Buffalo Bills. But that's why I'm looking at it. So Milano, if we're deciding, I think we both agree, can't bring him back.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to end up happening here.
I'm with you.
Which is a bummer. I mean, Milano's been one of my favorites. I mean, that dude, when healthy, is one of the scariest MFers in the league. He really is.
No question about it. All right, let's move on to Joey Bosa. I thought for some reason that the Bills were gonna bring this brother back. I don't know what it was, because initially when we first signed him, I was like, oh, this is a 1-year deal. Call it a day. See you later. And then someone was like, no, we gave him a void year and we're gonna probably end up bringing him back because we don't have any pass rushers, et cetera, et cetera. Bro, they said, nah, bro, you can go test free agency. We good. We good out here. So Joey Bosa, would you bring him back? Sack specialist. For the most part, he was healthy all year. He was banged up, played with a broken wrist, was like, nah, bro, I'm in. I'm not trying to do this. He fell in love with Buffalo. Do you see him coming back? Would you bring him back?
I thought Matt Milano was better than I think a lot of other people did. I think people were bummed that he didn't have this like game-altering moment in the postseason because it felt like that's what they signed him for.
Right.
But I think the first thing you thought of when they signed him was, is he going to be healthy? And then remember when he got banged up in the offseason and you're like, you got to be like, already? Are you kidding me?
Yep.
And the dude was nails all year. Now, what was he, Aaron Donald? No. But I thought he was fine for Buffalo. I really did. And it would depend on what you're going to be able to get him for. But you mentioned it. He loved Buffalo. I'll never forget what he had said. He said he had hung out with the guys in Buffalo more than he ever hung out with his teammates in LA, which I thought was incredibly telling because he was there for a long time. We know Bean loves taking those stabs at edge, right? Because it hasn't happened for Buffalo, whether it be in the offseason, free agency, or the draft. That has been the one area that you can almost guarantee will be, we'll have a dart thrown at the board during this period here where we get into March and beyond. I liked what we saw from Milano, but like when we look at it last year, right? And what did he end up getting? It was
he's on Bosa?
13 million. What did I say?
Yeah, Milano. You said, I know what you mean. Bosa.
Yeah, Bosa.
Yep.
A little over 13 million, right? Yep. I'm wondering
12 change.
I'm wondering what the market is.
Let me look
for him right now. Like who would be willing?
You talking about Bosa?
Bosa, yeah.
Let's find out. Because we paid him, I think 12, just shy of 13 mil, 12 and change. So we'll call it 13 mil just to round up. Let me have a look, see what Mr. Bosa, Joey Bosa, what his market value. His market value as of right now is $13.7 million. That's his market value. So
and they paid him roughly that last year.
Pretty much. I think the Bills might have pretty much had a hand in setting that market for him. So 13.7 is his market value right now. Are you bringing that back at 13.7? 2 years, $27 million deal? Did you get enough from him last year? No.
Well, it makes you but what is enough for Buffalo? Like, this is the thing. Like, they don't have. This is why I said earlier, like, I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe let me rephrase my question. Was he impactful enough for you to bring him back at $13.7 million?
Not at the top of his estimated range. No, I don't think Bean would do that.
No. And furthermore, if you wanted to get something from Bosa where we needed it was in the playoffs, this guy was quiet as kept in the playoffs. So to me, I'm absolutely out on Bosa. It was a great experiment.
Yeah.
And we saw what we could. He stayed healthy. Good for you. But just wasn't at the level that we needed it. Right? We just needed someone. I mean, who ended up being the leading sack guy on our team? Wasn't it freaking Greg Rousseau? And Greg Rousseau was okay. So to me, I'm out on that. I'm passing on Joey Bosa. I don't think the Bills even try to bring him back. If they do, disappointment. The guy has a dead cap hit of $7.2 million. Nah, bro. We just can't. So Joey Bosa, $13.7 million as his market value. He got to go. Now, could you make a case for him to return? That's another thing. Could you make a case?
I think you could make a case, and this is why I do think it could be potentially in the cards. It wouldn't be in the cards at that price you're talking about, over $13 million there. But does that love for Buffalo that he found warrant the willingness to take a dollar amount that Brandon Beane would be comfortable with? But this is what brings up, once again, I think the main topic of conversation this offseason. And it's what is the roster altering move going to be? And I had this conversation the other day, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on it.
Got it.
You get one major move. I'm talking major move. Would you rather it be a wide receiver, or would you rather it be a pass rusher? And I'll let you go first here, but I do think that the debate is more, I think it's tougher than would meet the eye.
So a pass rusher over a receiver.
I'll just put it this way, because it would have to be in a trade. You're not getting this. So either position, you're not, unless
reframe your question so I get it right.
Yeah. Unless you love Hendrickson from Cincinnati. Let's just remove him because he's a free agent. But let's just talk about simply a trade, and I'll just give a flat example. Justin Jefferson or Max Crosby? Which one would you personally want the most?
That's a no-brainer for me.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer for me. I don't even think you put both those guys in front of me, I'm going with Max Crosby all day.
Me too.
Max Crosby, no question about it, all day. And some people in the chat are saying Justin Jefferson. Listen, Justin Jefferson is an amazing talent. But do you need a Justin Jefferson type talent to get the job done? Or do you need an impactful guy that can give back the ball to Josh Allen and get someone that maybe a tier or two below Justin Jefferson? Because he's elite of the elite. But Max Crosby impacts the game offensively and gets after the opposition to give back the ball to Josh Allen. You'd be foolish to not think that Crosby would be the impact guy. You got to worry about a guy like that. So to me, Justin Jefferson would be great, but I'm taking the pass rusher all day. Do you share my same sentiments, or do you have a bit of a case you'd make for the receiver room?
Oh, there's certainly a case to make. But here's the thing, okay? The Bills scored just shy of 30 points per game last year with maybe the worst wide receiver core in the NFL. The one thing they have never had with Josh Allen, never, is that guy on defense, where you're keeping offensive coordinators up at night each week trying to game plan around that guy. How are we going to limit his impact? When you have a Josh Allen on offense, as we've seen, you can get by without having a Justin Jefferson. In fact, you can get by where your leading receiver in Khalil Shakir would likely be a wide receiver 3 on many other teams, right?
Yep.
That's not to say that additions aren't needed, because that goes without saying. And they're going to happen. There are going to be additions to the wide receiver room this offseason. I can promise you that. But does it need to be a Justin Jefferson? Or can it be more of a Alec Pierce type move where you see that on your phone, you're excited, but you're not calling everybody in your contact list saying, oh my God, did you just see the Bills got Justin Jefferson? Whereas on the defensive side of the ball, the Bills do not have the Josh Allen of their defense. Not even close. When I have a Josh Allen, I can get by without the Josh Allen of the wide receiver room, which would be Justin Jefferson. I can get by with really good. The Bills last year, it wasn't really good. It wasn't even good. It was mediocre to below average at best. The Bills can get to good this offseason at wide receiver without getting Justin Jefferson. But when I'm talking about the defensive side of things, I don't think you can add an Alec Pierce caliber edge rusher and then all of a sudden the defense gets completely altered to a point where now you are confident in their ability to uphold their end of the bargain to get it done, going towards the Super Bowl. You add Max Crosby, then all of a sudden Greg Rousseau's infinitely better. Ed Oliver's infinitely better. Michael Hoyt's infinitely better. So to me, I think it absolutely would have to be Max Crosby, because I know that I can add non-Justin Jefferson type guys on offense and still score 28 plus points per game. On defense, I don't think I can get by with adding, like they've done here, another Joey Bosa extension, something like that, and expect things to change. Yep. That's where I'm at. I think it would have to be Max Crosby.
You are absolutely on it. But here's what a player, forget about the name Max Crosby, just an impactful defensive end or pass rusher that we need. Because what it does is, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, but it shortens drives, right? It forces guys to, that's 3 and out, time of possession shortens, the ball's back in Josh Allen's hands, and now there's another 7 or 3 points on the board based on your defense and your major impact rusher getting after the quarterback. You saw the very little impact that Michael Hoyt had in the 2 games that he played with the Bills. This guy was a absolute buzzsaw. He was just a joy to watch. So you bring that times 2 onto the Bills pass rush, that becomes amazing. Not only does he shorten the drives, you're looking at a guy that creates turnovers, right? You need a guy that impacts guys like Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, the big three or big four that's in this league. Jane Daniels, the guys like Jane Daniels, right? The guys that are mobile. You need a guy that kind of gets after them and shortens the field and impacts these guys and puts pressure on them. Because now what does it do at the end of the day? Funnels the ball back to the offense so they can do what they need to do. And then you have a guy that just creates. You talk about if a receiver comes in and makes room for your tight end, and defensive end, like you alluded to, now your corners can press up a little bit more, right? Now you can kind of let the dogs loose because now they got to worry about who's on that guy. Myles Garrett is an absolute beast. Crosby's not too far off of that, brother, man. So a defensive end impactful as that, you don't even think twice about it. And I think that's what the problem for the Bills have been the last few years is they just have been looking for this guy and they just have not been able to land it. So was it McDermott's fault? Was it Brandon B's fault? Was it just a combination of the two? They couldn't quite get it. Do we just not have the sight to see who belongs on the squad? That's a whole different ball game. But something needs to be done because when an impact needs to happen, when Josh is having 30 points put on the board and with little help from the receivers, just him and James Cook and a good old line, bro, it becomes disheartening. So something needs to happen.
That's the thing. Like the 33 points right there. Like the Bills were 4th in points per game offensively in 2025. They were 12th in points allowed. That right there, the room for improvement is so much more drastic on defense than it is offense. What I like about this exercise is I think that you can get the best of both worlds. Signing Justin Jefferson, unless the Bills become the 2007 Patriots, where you add Randy Moss, where many people thought his career was over, and all of a sudden Tom Brady had one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen. That was the best offense I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, their margin of victory was, I think, the highest of all time. But you'd have to become that in order, I think, to justify that type of move while neglecting the defense. Whereas on the defensive side of things, you allowed 21.5 points per game last year. If you can get that down to sub 20 and get that towards top 5, you're far more confident in the Bills' ability to remain in the top 5 on offense without having a Justin Jefferson. Because are you going to get to 38 points, 35 points per game with Jefferson? Unlikely. But you can remain at 28 to 30 points per game.
Bingo.
With additions that aren't Justin Jefferson, but are still far better than what you had last year. Because if you're scoring 30 points per game, more often than not, you're going to win. But guess what? They scored 30 points against the Broncos and they didn't win. Why? The defense allowed 33. Now, I understand that's a tough example, the amount of turnovers the offense had in that game. Sure. I get that. But at the end, the defense had to make one more stop against Bo Nix before they went down and took the lead, and they couldn't do it. And there was a 3rd and long in that particular game that they just allowed Bo Nix to carve them up on and get all the way into scoring territory. I just think the room for improvement on defense is so much more vast than on offense that it requires a more substantial move on that side of the ball than on offense, while you can still take care of that area of need on offense without needing the Hall of Fame guy. Because I just don't think it's necessary. You need good. The Bills don't really have that right now, but they can get that without breaking the bank and making a Justin Jefferson type move. The Bills need great on defense, and you can't get that without making that type of move, and that's why I would go with Crosby in this scenario.
Okay, so we're so used to, I guess, the best way I can say it is McDermott and what Brandon Beane needs to shop for McDermott. Now we got a whole new mind frame. We got a whole new coach, an offensive side minded coach with a new defensive coordinator that now sees things completely different. Very hard to kind of try to figure out, what route are we going to go? I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to get impactful players, but where are the impactful players coming from for this defense? I don't know. Some people have fallen out of favor with Bernard. Some people just don't want anything to do with Bernard. Dorian Williams is a nice, capable player. Great, right? Shaq Thompson could return to the Bills. We never know. He's played in the 3-4 system. Then you're going with Landon Jackson. We don't know what he's going to bring to the table. So there's still a whole lot of things these Bills need to do to figure their lives out. So that's why I think when you see the list of, let me go back to my list here. You see the list of Matt Milano. You go see what you got to do. Joey Bosa, go see what you got to do. Connor McGovern, go see what you got to do. DaQuan Jones, you're aging. You got to go and see if you can get elsewhere. And AJ Epinesa. Those are the guys that said, yo, go do what you got to do. And we're going to reallocate our funds and try to rebuild or retool this team. My question to you now becomes, do you see it more happening on the defensive side of the ball? Do we go back to that end? I see it happening. I think they're going to try to retool that defense as much as they can, tweak the offense, but really heavily go in on the defense again. Same recipe last year, but it seems we don't have a choice. So we're going to have to go that route. We'll see.
And this is interesting because Jay Ham's saying, Bot, the past 2 Super Bowl defenses won as a group. There was no one closer on defense. That's why he would take Jefferson or JS, or because Jefferson would be the equivalent of JSN to Seattle, or AJ Brown with the Eagles.
Okay.
JSN was non-existent in that Super Bowl, but you know what was existent was that defense, and in particular that pass rush. I mean, Drake May, there's a reason why that was one of the worst performances you'll see in a Super Bowl, is because he had nothing. He had no time. Eagles as well. That defense was stout. Now, I know what you're saying. They were good all the way through. But think about the amount of impact players they have. The Bills don't really have one on defense. JSN, would you rather have him than not? Of course. But guess what? The Seahawks drafted JSN, right? Didn't go out and break the bank. Eagles broke the bank for A.J. Brown. I get that. But they also made a ton of other moves on defense, including in the draft, that allowed them to be able to dominate the Kansas City Chiefs the way that they did. I think that you've seen that defenses, once it gets to the postseason, have been far more impactful than these wide receiver ones, these JSNs, AJ Browns, and Justin Jeffersons of the world. So I get what you're saying, but we had Stephon Diggs. The Bills didn't get it done. You almost have a sample size, right? Of, well, the Bills did have a wide receiver that was considered to be one of the best in the league and had the numbers to back it up. They have never had a defensive player that anyone is considered to be one of the best in the NFL. And because of that, or edge rusher at least, they've never had that. I'd rather see what that looks like, because I know what it's going to look like with Justin Jefferson. I know they're going to put points up on the board. Once again, though, there's going to be the same problems on the defensive side of things. And will you be sitting here like you were with Diggs saying, we had Diggs, still didn't get it done?
At the end of the day, you got to be a balanced team. One thing that the Seahawks taught us is you've got to be balanced. I mean, the Super Bowl MVP was your freaking running back. So be a balanced team. We need to find a way to be balanced. We have the running game. We have the quarterback. And impactful receivers, what we can get that in the draft. We don't need to go balls to the wall and get a Justin Jefferson. If he falls in our lap, are we not going to be excited? Heck yeah.
Now that's the thing. If it happened, no one's going to be more excited than me. I'm just saying, if it came down to like the Bills win a lottery and they get to choose either one of these guys, this is why I would go with Max Crosby.
No, I'm with you right now, Ben. I'm with you right now. We got another super chat coming in for our guy, Mr. Michael Warfield says, hey, he says, Jettas, please, God, give them everything. I'm tired of playing safe. He is saying, give me Justin Jefferson. I need that. Here's the thing. I need to tell everybody, yo, cut it out, man. The Vikings are not going to give him up unless they're trying to rebuild everything, which I highly doubt. I know the GM kind of did not draft very well, but they still got
the GM got canned, Rico.
I know he didn't draft well, and that's why he got canned, because we're looking at the totality of what you've given this team hasn't been good. So do you move on from Justin Jefferson? Are you ready to concede?
I absolutely would if I'm Minnesota. What good is he going to do for you right now with JJ McCarthy? What good is that?
You've been talking a little greasy a little bit now. So
that he has.
Could it happen?
I mean, he essentially said it's really tough out here for me playing with a young quarterback. And it's not just a young quarterback. It's a quarterback with an injury history who was way overdrafted. I think they're going to rebuild whether they keep Justin Jefferson or not. So they're not. You look at that division. They're not close to Chicago. They're not Detroit, and they're not Green Bay right now. They're just not. And the quarterback gap between all those teams and them is sizable. Justin Jefferson is not doing them any good right now in terms of the grand scheme of things. This is where I think it would make sense, because you would get a haul for him right now.
What are you giving up for Justin Jefferson? I know it's tough, but what would you give up?
I don't think there's much I wouldn't give up.
So 3 first-round draft picks?
This is why with this idea that they've come up with the potential to extend the amount of years in the future you can give up draft picks, I hope they do it. Because this is a situation where if I'm being like, I would, we've talked about this. I would give up everything for right now. I already know what it's going to be like post Allen. I know what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be. You know what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be. We all know what it's going to be.
I already know.
Just do it. Anything. So listen. The problem is, Rico, 3 first-round picks for Buffalo is essentially like you almost would have to do it, you would think, compared to another team because they're picking in the late 20s every year. These aren't these very lucrative first-round picks. You'd have to overspend in draft capital.
You said this about 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to reiterate it. Kick that freaking can down the road as much as you can because the window with Josh Allen doesn't stay open forever. At one point, he will retire. So until then, you do what you must and you kick that can down the road and do what you have to, bring all the talent you have to in order to get close enough to win that damn thing until he's on that team. And until he leaves, like Bot said, we know what's coming for us when he leaves. So you better try to get it done now. Right now is the time to do it. So I'm waiting for it.
And to this point, the Bills aren't one player away from winning a Super Bowl. Maybe not, but I'll tell you what they also aren't. They are in a position to develop for the next 3 years a bunch of draft picks that hopefully end up getting them to a point where they are, where you do feel far more confident in them winning a Super Bowl. I'm more of the mindset right now where I would rather take the swing at the 1 or 2 guys than I would continuously trying to have them set up for 2-3 years from now. And we also don't know if they're not just one player away. I mean, they've been this close every single year. For all we know, they could be one player away. We don't know.
They could be. Because if we land, look at right now, there's conversation that Myles Garrett could be moved so they can try to acquire Betty. Could you imagine a Myles Garrett on the Bills team? You don't think that's one player?
Right there, Myles Garrett, there would not be a single thing, if I'm Brandon Beane, that I would not do.
That is one player that can turn this whole franchise around because he's that impactful. So Z-Bot is now bugging. The Bills aren't one player. No, they are. They could be one player away from making that thing happen. So, yes, they are. By the way, shout out to my man, Jonas says, yo, and a Nissan SUV for 60 kilometers, 100,000 kilometers, but 60,000 miles for you Americans. But to me, that's a sweet purchase because I'll have this for the next 7, 8, maybe 9 years. I keep my rides and maintain extremely well. So, I'm going to hold on to that. I don't lease. I'm not a lease guy. I thought I was going to be a lease guy at one point, but I was like, nah, I'm not a lease guy. But let's keep it rolling. My man Jam says, yo, in terms of the defense, there's 9 newly hired head coaches. Free agency is a bit stale this year. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the trade extravaganza this year, especially if the Bills are a part of it. Well, I'll tell you this much. Brandon Beane, like you said earlier, Brandon Beane will be active. He has to be active, and he owes it to Josh Allen. He owes it to the Bills fans, and he owes it to the rest of the freaking roster. Bro, stop putting out mediocre nonsense and really go for it. And if Pagula signs the check and says, yo, do what you got to do and do what your business, he's going to be active. Now, the question is where and how active he is going to be where we're going to focus and pay attention. But you best be told, you best believe he's going to be active. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
What really sucks is the amount of good teams, really good teams this year that are in really good cap situations. The Seattle Seahawks have $60 million in cap. Oh my gosh, the crazy. Entire NFC West, if you were just remove the Cardinals, but the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Niners, all 3 of them are in the top 11 of or top 10 of available cap. The New England Patriots have an ungodly amount of money to spend. So that's the other thing you got to consider too. You're talking about wanting to go to a contender. There are a ton of contenders that have a ton of money to spend. There's going to have to be some overpays, I would imagine, in order to lure them into Buffalo because of the situations other teams are in that the Bills just simply aren't.
It's as simple as that, man. So the Bills are going to have a very busy offseason. So they've already begun. Alec Anderson had to sign himself a small little contract. And somebody in the chat earlier said it. That little contract that he signed, that doesn't give me starter money. That is depth. You will continue to be depth. So maybe Edwards being gone, they're going to try to look to replace Edwards with a big-time free agent, but Cedric Van Pran-Granger may be the guy that comes in, and Alec Anderson continues to develop in his role as a swing guard, swing tackle. But then you also have Grable, that's going to be tackle, and then you got Chris Lund that we drafted. So there's a lot of pieces on this team that we're going to try to figure out on the offensive side of the ball, but here we are. But you got anything else that we want to do? We're 1 hour in, and I got to go pick up the girls. Anything you want to, maybe leave the people with, or what?
1 hour in as we head on out on a Friday evening. Go check out our friends over at Sleeper. Link in the description below. Click that and sign up for Sleeper. Yes, there's no NFL on right now, but there's tons of NBA and NHL coming your way over the next couple of months. So get in on the action over at Sleeper by building a Sleeper pick. We were doing it all throughout the football season. Continue to do so with the NBA, NHL. Link in the description below. Click that and sign up for Sleeper. Once you do, you will immediately get a free $20 entry. Once you use that free $20 entry, use the promo code on your screen, BF25, and that will get you a 100% match up to $100 on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper terms of use for details. Currently available in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper via the link in the description below. And while you're checking them out, make sure to check out their brand new Teams Picks feature. Sleeper's always adding new stuff. You obviously use them for fantasy and for Sleeper Picks. Now you can use them for team picks as well, like the example on your screen. So you can choose the Trailblazers to get it done over the Utah Jazz. Tons of different options on there with Sleeper's brand new picks feature. Link once again in the description below. You got to go pick up the lady.
We got to pick up the other ones, but hold on. We got, like I said last week, my man James has scorched earth. Do it, Bean. Go get JJ, and you'll be about forgiven. Also, Atlanta's dumb for giving up that pick. Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started on Atlanta. Don't even get me started on Atlanta.
And that's it. Like, when I was talking about earlier with these great teams, like the Rams have that pick. You know what I mean? You're competing with some real tough, some real tough situations. Some really good situations. It is. That's the key, though, Rico. It will be a fun offseason, and we continue to look forward to spending it with you. And don't be worried. We have plenty of top tier content coming in the next couple of weeks because free agency just a couple of weeks away. We cannot.
It's gonna be buzzing. Hang tight with us.
Hang tight, indeed. Hang tight, indeed. We appreciate you hanging out with us tonight on a Friday. Look forward to seeing you next time. But in the meantime, that's Rico. I'm Bot. Much love as always, and go.